Hey guys, haven't really made too many videos lately, but this might be sort of a little bit of a controversial one. In fact, probably will. Look at my grey beard, by the way. Anyway, let's get on to the actual content itself. Um, this is going to be sort of my opinion on the Ronda Rousey fiasco on Mortal Kombat 11 and whether she should have been invited to be casted to voice act Sonya Blade. So, first of all, the general premise of Ronda Rousey not being a voice actor and she was bad in this game, I completely understand that. That premise, that understanding, to me, that makes sense. I can understand that when we're talking about the general public and we're talking about, Sonya Blade from the previous games comparing to now, and you compare her to the rest of the characters in MK11, Sonya Blade, I think for the most part, a lot of people can agree, does not sound like an up to scratch voice acting character. I think we can all agree on that. One thing that I don't agree with is the way that this article has presented itself. In that, because of Ronda Rousey's comments labeled as a transphobe, she should not be allowed to play Sonya Blade in this game. So, a couple of things I want to talk about for this. The comments that Ronda Rousey have made on trans people have always been in relation to the UFC fighting. Now, as a person who has been in the business for a very long time, and she's had a very not long career, but she's worked her ass off to be, at the top of the echelon for UFC for a few years, and for her whole life to be that now in WWE. I can understand her frustration when transgender when a transgender athlete, I believe something Fox, was doing very, very, very well, knocking out opponents very easily, breaking records, and she made a comment that it wasn't fair. I'm pretty sure it's a little bit more explicit than that, but to me, I can sort of understand that frustration because biologically, in a fighting environment, and this has been proven by recent weightlifting records that has been set by a transgender woman that literally is shitting on every single other competitor that has been female. It is not fair. It is not fair at all when a male transitions into a female and competes in a female division. It is not fair because they still have the male elements in terms of their attributes that are passed on, and with strength and speed and stuff like that men generally do have the advantage in that department. And that's why, for example, the UFC trans fighters have been very, very successful, and for Olympic individuals or sports individuals that have transitioned and gone into something that requires more athleticism, that men would be presented themselves as to be more advantageous in that region, they have done a very good job, and I can understand the criticism that Ronda Rousey has been showing. And as it says in this article, she did respect the trans woman by using the correct pronouns. So I'm not 100% sure if she actually does mean it and she's a transphobe. I just think she's venting her frustration because, much like other naturally born women who have been competing in a sport for their whole lives, can get trumped by a male to female trans because they have that superiority within them quicker than most females can possess within that sport. For me, as I said, I am absolutely in support of trans people. I announce them by their correct pronouns. I have been in a relationship with a trans person, and I can not attempt to understand the feelings that a lot of these people do have when confronted into social situations. And I'm sure when Ronda Rousey made that comment, a lot of the community definitely have the right to backlash there, because I know that is an area that certainly segregates them from the norm, right? I wouldn't say they're pointed out to constantly and looked down upon, but they are like heading towards that region, right? So I can totally understand the backlash that are given here for Ronda Rousey, but at the same time, I don't think she meant it in that type of light. It was more of a competitive frustration that was in her, and we have seen this in the past of Ronda Rousey with a variety of different topics. It doesn't need to exactly be trans to figure out that Ronda Rousey can be a bitch sometimes. She's been very outspoken about women in general. She's been very outspoken with men that she has sex with, like way back when she wasn't in a relationship. She's just a very vocal woman who doesn't like a lot of things. She's just, I'm not going to say a bitch, but she does that shit. So you have the right to not like her. I think a lot of people don't like Ronda Rousey, and I can understand why the trans community don't like her. I can understand why the women community wouldn't like her. I can understand why the men wouldn't like her. There's a variety of different sections within our society that have reasons to. But the one thing that we can't negotiate with, and this is a lot of things, this is the people that, especially from the gaming side, don't seem to realize, is that despite all that sort of negative feedback, she is one of the most popular superstars on the planet in relation to her UFC success. Of course, she didn't have the best into a UFC career, as she transitioned that very fluently into a very well-shaped WWE career, getting a WWE title in her very first year. So she's mega popular. They wouldn't have given her the WWE title if it wouldn't have paid dividends. So obviously, with the popularity, as far as popularity is concerned, I mean, hell, she even dressed up as Sonya Blade for I believe it wasn't a pay-per-view. I believe it was a couple of shows before a pay-per-view. Yeah, she ended up dressing up as Sonya Blade, so that was quite cool. Oh no, I think it was at a pay-per-view. It was the one a couple before WrestleMania. I'm not too sure. I have to fact check that. But yeah, I'm just trying to be like relatively neutral in this discussion, guys, because I can understand where a lot of people are coming from. On one side, you have the trans community, all up in arms because she has made these comments, but I think considering if you actually knew Ronda Rousey as a person, and if you didn't psychoanalyze everything she said, I don't think she's exactly a transphobe. I just think she's a bitch in general, with the amount of things that she has said to a wide variety of different races or people in general. I don't think that's the case. And I think her argument does stem from a relative area, and I can understand where she's coming from. And at the same time, I can understand why the trans community would be angry because of what she said, because they already cop enough flack as it is. So yeah, that was just my little take on it. I think she's an absolutely awful voice actor. At the same time, I don't know the stats on the amount of consumers outside of the gaming market that bought this game because of Ronda Rousey. We don't know that, but we do know that she is one of the most popular sporting female superstars on the planet, which, no matter which way you put it. So for NetherRealm to do this, I think business-wise, I can understand it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Whatever. You can have your own opinions, guys, but we can have a discussion. I don't encourage the toxicity in the comments. You're entitled to your own opinion. As I said, I am very... Well, I respect the trans community a lot, and maybe some of you guys won't be happy with this, but I think Ronda Rousey being in this game, sure, it's probably a mistake, but I can at least understand where they're coming from. And unlike this article, which I'll link in the description, I don't think Heather is on the same wavelength, sorry. And I think you should always try and look from a variety of different angles. See you guys.